And we're live. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the Saturday movie night. I know it's usually a horse show. I might update this sign or the header here because I like talking about movies. Tonight we are going to be talking about John Carpenter's They Live from 1988. I wanted to I had talked about maybe we should talk about The Thing because that is related to the Hateful Eight and also Halloween, which I wore the T-shirt, which we were talking about last night in the Halloween franchise. But I thought we should start with They Live because it's political and we live in a very political time, a very politicized time right now. Miko Herptile's in the chat that wearing his blue wrench quite well, if I do say so myself. Miko says, hello, superantonio and Sadie. Hello, mods. Good morning / evening, everyone. So, yes, Miko, hello, mods. You should say hello, fellow mods, because you're just saying hello to yourself. David as lizard emoticon for Miko, and says there she is for Sadie, and David says there he is, and Ramon Sanchez, greetings Ramon, welcome to the Saturday movie discussion night. How are you, friend? David says RS, and Miko says hey David and Chrissy. How are you? How is everyone tonight? I had a very busy day. Very hot. Sadie had a bath. You cannot imagine the ring she left in the tub. Well, it's a shower, but I almost wanted to take a picture of it because it was spectacular. I can't imagine how a young lady can allow herself to get that dirty. She is, of course, unashamed and unembarrassed and happy to do it again, I'm sure. But for now, at least, she's very clean and soft. So we're happy about that. 6 viewers in the chat. Welcome, friends. Appreciate you being here. Happy Saturday. Sadie's licking the sunblock. David, I'm glad you're here. Appreciate you. I meant it when I said last night that I can't do this without you. I'm not going to lay it all on you. And of course I can do it without you, but I am saying that, you're very important to this channel and I cannot do it without you. Ramon says, hi Super Antonio, Miko, and David. Welcome, Ramon. So I thought we would talk about They Live, and then I have a very interesting interview from the director John Carpenter that we will read if we have time. And of course we will have time. David says, just relaxing. Yeah, you relax. And also you as well, Miko. I can't do it without you. But, David has been with the channel for so long. It's just hard to think about him not being with the channel. No pressure on you, Mr. V63. Okay. Where is John Carpenter's They Live? They Live, to quote Wikipedia, is a 1988 American science fiction action horror film written and directed by John Carpenter based on the 1963 short story 8 O'Clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson. Starring Rowdy Roddy Piper, Keith David, and Meg Foster, the film follows a drifter who discovers through special sunglasses that the ruling class are aliens, concealing their appearance and manipulating people to consume, breed, and conform to the status quo via subliminal messages in mass media. Maycall Maltez says, hi, Super Antonio, what have I missed? You have missed nothing, Maycall. You are just in time. We're going to be talking about They Live tonight. Having acquired the film rights to the Nelson penned story prior to the production of They Live, Carpenter used the story as a basis for the screenplay structure, which he wrote under the pseudonym Frank Armitage. Frank Armitage was a Disney artist. I'm sure John Carpenter knew him. Carpenter had stated that the themes of They Live stemmed from his dissatisfaction with the economic policies of the then U.S. President Ronald Reagan, as well as what Carpenter saw as an increasing commercialization in both popular culture and politics. This came out in the 80s, 1988, but it's very apropos for what we're going through today. It's a wonderful metaphor. Channel member Glynis Coleman is here. Greetings, Glynis. And here's Serena. Everyone say hi to Serena. Serena, how are you, friend? Serena says, hi, Antonio. Still in hospital. I might be in and out of chat. Nurses and doctors always coming into my room. Oh, I'm very happy that you're here, Serena. We all love you very much and wish you the best. And you just listen to the chat. Don't worry about talking. And just understand that we're all here for you, and we're all going to take care of you as best we can. And that's what you get for fighting all those giant spiders on your kangaroo. Everyone told you that you needed to take it easy. Batzaro here and says, howdy, y'all. And Glynis says, hey, David, hope you are better. Okay, moving on. They Live was a minor success upon release, debuting at number 1 at the North American box office. It initially received negative reviews from critics, who lambasted its social commentary, writing, and acting. However, it later gained a cult following and experienced a slightly more favorable critical reception. You know, pretty much every movie John Carpenter ever made bombed, except for Halloween. He did Memoirs of an Invisible Man with Chevy Chase. And also, he did one more that did well, but most of his movies bombed and were critically lambasted. It is now regarded by many as one of Carpenter's best films. The film Village of the Damned, that's the movie I was thinking about, starring Christopher Reeve. The film has also entered into the pop culture lexicon, notably having a lasting effect on street art. Moving on to the plot. David says, so happy you are here, Serena. I am too, Serena. You take it easy. You get better. We need you, Serena. Nada, a homeless man, comes to Los Angeles, California in search of a job. Nada, of course, you may know, means nothing. Roddy Piper, I don't know if you know, he was a wrestler who wrestled under the name Roddy Piper. He wore a kilt. A big brute of a man. In search of a job where he sees a preacher warning that they have recruited the rich and powerful to control humanity. He finds employment at a construction site and befriends his coworker Frank, played by Keith David, who invites him to live in a shantytown near a church, and meets Gilbert. A hacker takes over TV broadcasts, warning that humanity is their cattle and that the only way to see it is to shut off the signal at its source. Those watching the broadcast complain of headaches. Nada follows Gilbert and the preacher into the church, discovering the meeting with a group including the hacker. He also sees equipment and boxes inside, but escapes when he is discovered by the preacher. The shantytown and church are both destroyed in a police raid, and the hacker and preacher are brutalized by the police. Nada retrieves one of the boxes from the church and takes a pair of sunglasses from it, hiding the box in a rubbish pile. He discovers that they make the world appear monochrome, but also reveal subliminal messages in the media to consume and conform. They also show that many people are actually ghoulish, bug-eyed aliens hiding under human facades. What's that about? The creatures also have a wristwatch communicators that allow them to teleport. The wristwatch communicators are Rolexes. I mean, they're fake Rolexes, obviously, but John Carpenter was very pointedly, specific about that because he's focused on the yuppie culture of the 80s. Odog is here. Greetings, Odog. Odog says, greetings, howdy, Miko. Hi, Serena. We're all boogered up, Serena. Hang in there, love. I'm playing college football as usual. And thanks for the email, Super Antonio. I'm here for you, Odog. And I'm really happy that you are here for me. Appreciate you, friend. Keith David is in this movie, Odog. I know you know who that is. When the aliens start to realize Nada can see them, he is confronted by two alien police officers. He kills them, steals their guns, and enters a bank. It's an action movie, but and he's Roddy Piper is a former wrestler, and he's got all these big, broad wrestling moves. It's not martial arts. It's just throwing people around, haymakers. Just like block the punch, knock somebody out. It's a very John Wayne school of fighting. He kills them, steals their guns, and enters a bank where he sees that several of the employees are customers are aliens. That's where he gives the famous line, "I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I am all out of bubblegum." He kills several and escapes by taking a human, Holly Thompson, played by Meg Foster, hostage. Nada tries to get her to put on the sunglasses, but she throws him out of a window and down a hill. Well, they escape in her car, and she takes him to her house, a beautiful house on the Hollywood Hills with a great view. And she knocks him out with a bottle, and he falls through a plate glass window and rolls down a hill. And he's doing his own stunts because he's Roddy Piper. Glynis Coleman says, very 80s, yes. And Chrissy V says, good evening, everyone. I'm really glad you're here, Chrissy, and I'm so happy that you're taking care of our David. We need him. While retrieving another pair of sunglasses from the rubbish pile, Frank, thinking Nada a dangerous menace, comes to give Nada his paycheck. When Nada tries to put the glasses on him, Frank resists, and the two get into a lengthy brawl. And this lengthy brawl is I think in the top 100 movie fight scenes of many lists. It's incredibly long. It's over 6 minutes long. It's brutal. It's like a real life wrestling. They do wrestling moves, and obviously it's fake that there's cardboard boxes for them to body slam into all over this alley. But it just keeps going on and on and on. And pretty much they're just trading punches. Two giant Goliaths of men. Nada keeps asking Frank, put on the glasses, and Frank won't, because why would I? But he finally puts them on, and then he can see, you see the world in black and white, and you see the aliens, and you see all the signs, buy, consume. I really like, there you go, stay asleep. Dollar bills are just say, this is your God. And there's John Carpenter. There's the man. The two run into Gilbert, who introduces them to the human resistance. They are given contact lenses to replace the sunglasses and learn that the aliens are using global warming to make Earth more like their homeworld while depleting its resources for their own gain. I'm going to call Sadie back because I don't know if Serena saw her. Serena, you don't have to say anything, but Sadie's here, and Sadie misses you and loves you and thinks you're a beautiful girl. They also learn that the aliens have been bribing human collaborators. After Holly arrives, the meeting is raided by the police, with the majority of those present killed as the survivors scatter. It's also like an 80s action movie. It's really gun heavy. But again, John Carpenter's, it's like the Rambo level of gunfights, but John Carpenter is way more realistic, and it's And they're the Rolexes I was talking about. Um, Nada and Frank are cornered in an alley, but they activate an alien wristwatch, which opens a portal to the alien spaceport on Earth under Cable 54, an alien-run news network. Serena says, "Hi, Sadie, beautiful girl, miss you." Sadie misses you as well, Serena, but you don't have to talk in the chat if you don't feel like it. David says, "Used to watch Rowdy Roddy Piper at the Olympic Auditorium in San Bernardino, California in the 80s. Oh, also, that fight directly inspired Darren Aronofsky for The Wrestler. He pretty much based the whole movie around that fight. And discovering a meeting of aliens and collaborators celebrating the elimination of the terrorists, they are approached by a drifter from the shanty town. Now one of the collaborators, thinking they are new recruits, he gives them a tour of the facility where the aliens broadcast a signal that prevents human from seeing them and the hidden messages. Nada and Frank find Holly and fight their way to the transmitter on the roof, but Holly, herself a collaborator responsible for the raids, kills Frank. Nada kills Holly and destroys the transmitter. And without the transmitter, everyone can see the aliens for who they really are. But is mortally wounded by a police helicopter. With the signal shut down, Nada gives them the middle finger as he dies. Meanwhile, humans all over the world discover the aliens hiding among them. And that's the movie. I mean, it goes really fast. It's 90 minutes. You're in and out. It's a wonderful metaphor. Meg Foster, there she is. She was a beauty. She aged very well. If you see her now, she's a very stunning older woman now. I think she's basically retired. I don't know if she's making any more movies. Themes. Carpenter has said that the film's political commentary derives from his dissatisfaction with then U.S. President Ronald Reagan's economic policies, also known as Reaganomics, and what Carpenter viewed as increasing commercialization in both the popular culture and politics of the era. Upon the film's release... Sorry, just lost my place. Carpenter remarked, "The picture's premise is that the Reagan Revolution is run by aliens from another galaxy. Free enterprises from outer space have taken over the world, and they are exploiting the Earth as if it's a third world planet. As soon as they exhaust all our resources, they'll move on to another world. I began watching TV again. I quickly realized that everything we see is designed to sell us something. It's all about wanting us to buy something. The only thing they want to do is take our money." To this end, Carpenter thought of sunglasses as being the tool to seeing the truth, which is seen in black and white. It's as if the aliens have colonized us. That means, of course, that Ted Turner is really a monster from outer space. Ted Turner was the founder of CNN. I think he's retired now. He was married to Jane Fonda for a while. Ramon Sanchez says the themes in this movie are still relevant today. Yes, Ramon, that is why I picked it. I wanted to talk about some John Carpenter movies. We were going to talk about The Thing, or perhaps Halloween, which is why I wore the t-shirt. But I thought we would do this because the nation is so politicized right now. And after the events in Butler, PA, it's on everyone's minds. The director commented on the alien threat in an interview. "They want to own all our businesses. A Universal executive asked me, 'Where's the threat in that? We all sell out every day.' I ended up using that line in the film. The aliens were deliberately made to look like ghouls," according to Carpenter, who said the creatures are corrupting us, so they themselves are corruptions of human beings. In 2017, in response to neo-Nazi interpretations of the film's themes, Carpenter further clarified that the film is about yuppies and unrestrained capitalism and has nothing to do with Jewish control of the world. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I just did. And the movie really, I love this movie. I love John Carpenter. He's one of my favorite directors. But the movie is all over the place. I mean, is it science fiction? Is it horror? Is it an action movie? It's like it's all in. The answer to all of that is yes. The aliens are horrific. There is a lot of action. It's probably his most actiony movie since Assault on Precinct 13. But it's all sorry, Sadie's licking my foot. What's that about? She's very distracting. She's under the desk right now. The idea for They Live came from a short story called 8 O'Clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson, originally published in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction in November 1963, involving a protagonist, George Nada, and an alien invasion in the tradition of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which Nelson, along with artist Bill Ray, adapted into a story called Nada, published in the Alien Encounters comics anthology in April 1986. John Carpenter describes Nelson's story as a DOA type of story, in which a man is put in a trance by a stage hypnotist. When he awakens, he realizes that the entire human race has been hypnotized and that alien creatures are controlling humanity. He has only until 8 o'clock in the morning to solve the problem. Carpenter acquired the film rights to both the comic book and short story and wrote the screenplay using Nelson's story as a basis for the film's structure. Okay. Casting, Roddy Piper. He had met John Carpenter met Roddy Piper in WrestleMania 3 earlier in 1987. For Carpenter, it was an easy choice. Quote, unlike most Hollywood actors, Roddy has life written all over him. They Live was shot in 8 weeks, in March and April of 1988, principally on location in downtown Los Angeles. On the review aggregator website, Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 86% based on 73 reviews. The website's critical consensus reads, a politically subversive blend of horror and sci-fi. They Live is an underrated genre film from John Carpenter. In his review for the Chicago Reader, Jonathan Rosenbaum wrote, Carpenter's wit and storytelling craft make this fun and watchable, though the script takes a number of unfortunate shortcuts, and the possibilities inherent in the movie's central concept are explored only cursorily. He only had 90 minutes, Jonathan Rosenbaum. What do you want? Jay Carr, writing for the Boston Globe, said, once Carpenter delivers his throwback to the 50s visuals, complete with plump little B-movie flying saucers, and makes the point that the rich are fascist fiends, They Live starts running low on imagination and inventiveness, but felt that as sci-fi horror comedy, They Live, with its wake-up call to the world, is in a class with Terminator and RoboCop, even though its hero doesn't sport bionic biceps. In her review for the New York Times, Janet Maslin wrote, since Mr. Carpenter seems to be trying to make a real point here, the flatness of They Live is doubly disappointing. So is its crazy inconsistency, since the film stops trying to abide even by its own game plan after a while. Richard Harrington wrote in the Washington Post, it's just John Carpenter as usual, trying to dig deep with a toy shovel. That's interesting. I like the metaphor. The plot for They Live is full of black holes. The acting is wretched. The effects are second-rate. In fact, the whole thing is so preposterous it makes V look like Masterpiece Theater. V got remade in like the 2010s, and I highly recommend the remake. ODOG has to go. He says phone calls. Y'all be well. You be well, ODOG. I appreciate you and I miss you. And you have a great weekend, ODOG. Thank you for being here, friend. In the 2012 documentary film The Pervert's Guide to Ideology, presented by the Slovene philosopher and psychoanalyst Slavoj Žižek, begins with an analysis of They Live. Zizek uses the film's concept of wearing special sunglasses that reveal the truth to explain his definition of ideology, and he states, They Live is definitely one of the forgotten masterpieces of the Hollywood left. The sunglasses function like a critique of ideology. They allow you to see the real message beneath all the propaganda, glitz and posters, and so on. When you put the sunglasses on, you see the dictatorship in democracy, the invisible order, which sustains your apparent freedom. They Live has ranked number 18 on Entertainment Weekly's magazine The Cult 25, the essential left field movie since 1983 list. Rotten Tomatoes ranked the fight scene between Roddy Piper's character Nada and Keith David's character Frank 7th on their list of the 20 greatest fight scenes ever. The fight scene influenced the 2008 film The Wrestler, whose director Darren Aronofsky interpreted the scene as a spoof. The fight scene was parodied by the TV show South Park in the episode Cripple Fight. Shepard Fairey credits the film as a major source of inspiration, using a similar logo to his Andre the Giant Has a Posse campaign. They Live was the basis for my use of the word obey, Fairey said. The movie had a very strong message about the power of commercialism and the way that people are manipulated by advertising. Novelist Jonathan Lethem called They Live one of his favorite movies of the 80s, hands down. He said, It's a great movie. Look at what it does to people. Look at how it emboldens and provokes. It's disturbing and ridiculous and outrageous and uncomfortable. But I think it's the kind of great movie that doesn't really need defense. It just needs to be given the air. Lethem wrote a book-length homage to the movie for the Soft Skull Press Deep Focus series. The 2013 video game Saints Row 4 features an extended parody of the film with Roddy Piper and Keith David voicing fictionalized versions of themselves and a recreation of the fight scene between Nada and Armitage. Rock band Green Day paid homage to They Live in their music video for Back in the USA. The film is noted for a popularly quoted line spoken by Nada, I've come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. And the main character, Duke Nukem, in the video game Duke Nukem 3D, was made to be a mix of 80s and 90s action film stars, including Roddy Piper, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Kurt Russell, and Bruce Campbell. His look was partially based on Nada's appearance, sporting similar sunglasses and quoting many lines from the film. I got to get that light out of my eyes. It's hard when I'm reading so much. And that, my friends, is They Live. I knew we would have time to go through this interview, which I really like. It's from 2010. From the website The Flashback Files, and the title is "Fuck 'Em, I Don't Care." John Carpenter, the director of such beloved classics as Halloween, The Thing, and Big Trouble in Little China, has been semi-retired for a long time, but he hasn't been completely gone. In 2010, he did The Ward, and more recently, he has been touring with his music. Although he has had some trials and tribulations in his career, he was quite zen about the whole thing during his phone interview with Roel Hangen in April of 2014. Whatever happens, happens. In the 70s, you were among a new generation of filmmakers blowing new life into the horror genre. But whereas your peers like Tobe Hooper, Wes Craven, and David Cronenberg tried to modernize the genre, you immediately embraced the Hollywood tradition with Assault on Precinct 13, especially in terms of style. Yeah, John Carpenter, he's always had a very traditional, I would call Hitchcockian directorial style. It's very old world, old school, old Hollywood. And it's one of the reasons why I like him, because he reminds me of Hitchcock. Mama One and Papa One are here. Greetings, Mama One and Papa One. You're just in time for the John Carpenter interview. Everyone say hello to Mama One and Papa One. Mama One, Serena is here somewhere, I hope. She might not be talking, but she is listening, and we're always very happy to have you here. Batzaro says, V Remake is amazing. I love the V Remake. I have it on Blu-ray. What's that about? Maybe we'll do a whole Saturday movie night on the V Remake, Batzaro. I'm going to do it. I'm making a note right now. V Remake. What's that about? And John Carpenter answers, for me, the modernizing of the genre begins in the 60s with George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. That was groundbreaking. Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre was groundbreaking. The thing about that movie, Texas Chainsaw, was that you never saw anything. It was all implied. Now in Wes Craven's Last House on the Left, you saw a lot. That was a pretty brutal movie, but they were all experimenting on where they could take the exploitation movies. I was always a child of Hollywood. I loved Hollywood movies. I loved old-fashioned Hollywood movies. I never lost my film school training and my love of old films. So you're right about that. Absolutely right. When Halloween came out, you were 30 years old. And in his glowing review, Roger Ebert compared you to Hitchcock. What did that do to your confidence as a filmmaker, being hailed as the new master of suspense? Well, it was nice. But then they started awaiting the new Hitchcock movie, and that's not what I wanted to do. I was not Hitchcock. I was a student of his work in cinema, but I was already a very different director. So it was a mixed bag. Of course, it's wonderful to be compared to a great director, but it also comes with a little bit of expectation. And you think, oh dear, I can't live up to that. Halloween set a trend, the slasher movie, a genre. Yeah, John Carpenter basically invented the slasher genre. And Freddy, Jason, Art the Clown from Terrifier 2, none of those characters would exist without Michael Myers. John Carpenter did it first. A genre that got a bad reputation due to the fact that slasher films seem to get more violent and bloody every year. Eventually, Halloween got thrown in with the rest of those nasty movies. Although there was a big difference between your film, which focused on suspense and fear, and those bloody affairs. Did that ever bother you? I was aware of the trend. You can boil it down to one thing. These producers in Hollywood took one look at Halloween, and all they saw was a movie made for very little money that made a lot of money. So that's what they wanted to make. A little horror movie and make lots of money. The minute you start making horror movies like that, like Friday the 13th, what you end up with, if you're not careful, is nothing but an escalation of gore. When it became obvious pretty soon that there was no characters in these movies, just victims lining up to be killed. That was part of the design, so that the audience could yell at the screen, "Don't go in there." Do I mind being lumped in there? Well, there's nothing I can do about it. So, whatever happens, happens. But weren't you trying to get away from the slasher genre when you did Halloween 3 as a producer? No, that wasn't it. I just didn't think there was any more story to Halloween. Boy, was I wrong, huh? Look what they've done with it. They're doing another one right now. It's endless. We're talking about expectations just now. When you did The Fog, was there a little voice in the back of your mind saying you had to at least match Halloween in terms of suspense and horror? Yeah, but you try to ignore that. The Fog was a movie on its own. Trying to match something you've done is a real bad idea. So I just ignored it and kept onward. The Fog also stars Janet Leigh, Jamie Lee Curtis's mom. And also Jamie Lee Curtis is in The Fog. I don't think they have any scenes together. I cannot recall. Janet Leigh, of course, you recognize from Psycho. You should recognize that name. Serena says, good to see you, Mama and Papa One. I'm very happy you're here, Serena. And you just take it easy and you get better. Yeah, but you try to ignore that. The Fog was a movie on its own. Trying to match something you've done is a real bad idea, so I just ignored it and kept onward. But while editing the movie, you discovered it didn't work. That's right. It wasn't very scary. I had to amp it up. And when you feel there are high expectations to be met, that's the last thing you want. How did it feel at the time? Terrible. I felt like shit. You wanted to work the first time, but luckily Avco Embassy agreed to put up another chunk of money, and we went back through the film and finessed everything, made everything a bit better. I wrote a couple new scenes, mostly storytelling scenes, that made it more like a ghost story. We changed the music, and we managed to open #1, so I was happy. There has been some talk of an Escape from New York remake, but Escape from New York ranks as one of my all-time favorite films. But I always felt that it was a movie of its time. The idea of Manhattan being awash with crime is very something of the late 70s and early 80s, and the 2020s. You got it. That's exactly right. Right now, Manhattan is Disneyland. It's fake. Everything's great there, so it really wouldn't work. Escape from New York is really a movie of the 70s. That's when I wrote it. New York was going through some real problems then. A lot of crime, a lot of decay. It was a whole different place. You're right. I agree with you. And yeah, New York is back in the 70s. You know, like San Francisco. But why consider a remake if the premise is so much part of that era? They don't think that way. It's not about what's relevant. It's about money. I don't think it's ever going to be made, though. Is it even possible for you to envision another actor playing Snake Plissken? There is no other Snake Plissken than Kurt. None. Call me Snake. It is the sequel, Escape from L.A., is one of my favorite movies of yours. I think it is even better than the first one. It's faster, funnier, more exciting, and even more important, it brings Snake's nihilism to an ultimate conclusion. I agree, it's a better movie. It didn't do what the first one did for some reason. Maybe it was too dark, too nihilistic. I don't know. They didn't dig it as much as the first one. It did okay, but it just wasn't a hit. Yeah, I don't love Escape from L.A. You know, I think it's played out. It's great to see Snake again. But I agree that it didn't really work. Could it be that the fans would rather see Snake in that same 1981 universe? I don't know, John Carpenter says, and I don't care. Some of your films were instantly successful, others needed a bit longer to find an audience. The best example is probably The Thing, which is now considered one of the best horror movies ever, but when it came out, it wasn't exactly a hit. It was hated, I repeat, hated by the fans. It was unbelievable. Now, you know it's a classic, but I knew then, I knew it. I thought it was really good, but nobody else did. Yeah, you have a vision, persistence of vision. 15 viewers in the chat. Welcome, friends. We're talking about John Carpenter and They Live, and this John Carpenter interview that I found on the Flashback Files, which is really good. Serena's in the chat, and if you could give her your well wishes and pray for a safe and fast recovery, and I want you home from the hospital really soon, Serena. You've got your kangaroos, your war kangaroos are waiting for you. They're very anxious and scared, so you have to go home and take care of them. You have to reassure them that you're going to be okay. But when did you first realize that the fans caught on? Oh, over the years, slowly but surely, people would come to me and tell me that they really liked it. They could usually whisper so that no one could hear. And then a couple of books were written about it and its reputation grew. It was wonderful. What do you think turned the audiences off at first? The effects or the bleakness of the film? I think the second. I would agree with him. It's very bleak. I think that was it. It was all so dark. It was about the end of everything. It was such a hopeless situation, these poor guys out there. And the effects were pretty savage, yeah. And they're completely analog. There's 0.00 CGI in this movie. CGI didn't even exist at the time. It's just models and stop motion and blood squibs, and it's amazing. It's an amazing movie. For the time, they were really shocking, still shocking. People were actually upset by it. Isn't it ironic that the same year The Thing was released, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts for the first time gave out an award for special makeup effects? Yeah, that's right, but not for The Thing. I don't know who won. But if you think about it, what Rob Bottin did for The Thing was transformative. He took that someplace else where it had never been before. But hey, that's the way it goes. Did you see the remake / prequel of The Thing? Yes. And what did you think? Oh, I don't know. They did the best they could. I thought there were a couple of things wrong about it, but nobody asked me. Yeah, the prequel is okay. There's a lot of CGI. It doesn't really match up to the first one. But they do, I mean, they pay a lot of attention to the first film, and there's like, there's an homage and and what I would consider a love for the original film, in the prequel. But it's like heavy on the CGI, and it's okay. I wouldn't recommend it. The director said in an interview that he tried to do the movie with practical effects, but that they didn't work and that a modern audience wouldn't accept practical effects anyway. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. And neither does John Carpenter, who says, that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. I don't believe it. It's hard to do, tough to pull off. You know what audience would accept? Too much CGI. Having said that, I thought the effects were pretty good. I just don't believe the audience won't accept it. Thing about CGI versus practical effects is that when an actor is reacting to a green screen or a tennis ball on a stick, the audience can sense, from thousands of years of evolution that it's fake, even without seeing whatever is there, the green screen or whatever. Whereas if you have practical effects, in-camera effects, if the actor is seeing it, he's giving a visceral reaction that, because it's there, it's happening in front of him. And you can feel that. It comes across on the screen. It gets captured. That's the magic of cinema. The interview continues. They did try to stay very close to your movie. Yeah, the film has its strong points. I'm not going to say anything bad about it. After the commercial failure of The Thing, you did Christine, which was a hit. At the time, Stephen King adaptations were popular. Did you feel it was a safe choice, career-wise? It was the only choice, and it was the only job I could get. So I went ahead and did it. One of the strong points of Christine is that you eliminated the character of Roland LeBay, the previous owner of the Plymouth Fury, who in the novel haunts Arnie Cunningham as a rotting corpse from the back seat of the car. Your movie suggests that the car itself is evil, a notion that works really well, but I've read interviews with you expressing doubts about that choice. Oh, I don't know. I always doubt everything. Don't listen to me. But still, in the same interview, you said that there was something in Stephen King's writing that doesn't translate to screen well. I would agree. Could you elaborate on that? Well, he's such a wordsmith and he writes really well, but he has no time limit on his writing. His books are really thick. You can get lost in them, and that doesn't always work when you translate it to the screen. Yeah, Stephen King focuses on characterization and motivation, and you really get into his world and the motivation of the characters. I mean, you can you can get lost in his works, but it's not about story. There's it's mostly about the characters' day-to-day life and what they're thinking, and the story progresses very slowly. What did King think of your movie? I don't know. Stephen King loves everything and then he hates it. He's a weird ass guy. Just weird. Started out as a teacher. What the hell do you want? Starman is probably the sweetest and most mainstream film you ever did. Probably so. Were you trying to change your image in Hollywood? I just realized at some point that they were never going to let me do a romantic comedy. I was just going to be in horror and stay there, which is fine. But I wanted to get my shot at it. and that was a perfect choice to do. I'm very happy with how that film turned out. It's also the only film of yours in which the alien is benign. Most of the time, they're up to no good. They should be up to no good. But if aliens were to visit us, which scenario is more likely, you think? Starman or The Thing? Well, look, we have no idea if there are any alien life forms out there, and if there are any, what will they look like and be like? We have no idea. We're making movies about ourselves. They're about the dark and good side in all of us. That's a great answer. Big Trouble in Little China was also a movie that found its audience later on, but it's such a fun movie. How could that go wrong? Was it marketing or distribution? Well, the studio was expecting Indiana Jones. That's what they wanted, but instead they got this goofy, weird movie. They wanted me to cut out all the funny stuff. They wanted it less funny. Look, it was not a pleasant experience. We don't need to revisit this, but I can say that when the movie came out, it wasn't a big hit. It wasn't reviewed particularly well, and they attacked Kurt. Fuck him! I don't care. I loved that movie. And so do a lot of fans. At the time, it was this experience that made you go back to independent movies like Prince of Darkness and They Live, but after that, you tried again with a big studio. I don't have a magic wand here. I can't wave it and say, I'm going to do this now. It's the reality of the movie business. Sometimes you take the first offer that looks good to you. Sometimes you have to wait for something better. It depends on your age. It depends on your career. I've never been in control of my career, and at the same time, I've been in complete control of my career. It's a weird deal. It's on the line. So Memoirs of an Invisible Man came along, and I thought I'd give it a shot. Jesus Areola has joined the chat and says, Salute all. Greetings, Jesus. Happy Saturday. With They Live, you expressed a lot of anger about the Reaganomics of the time. Absolutely. That was the reason to make that film. Reaganomics are still with us, by the way. They never left America. Vampires and Ghost of Mars have this certain energy, like you were going out of your way to make these movies really cool. Thank you. I approach every movie the same way. I just use my instincts. Style and emphasis is always instinctual with me. They are very different stories, but they are both Westerns in disguise. Were you glad that you could make these movies at the end of my career? Sure, but I'm glad about everything. I'm enormously lucky. I got to be John Carpenter. Hell, man, there's nothing wrong with that. After Ghost of Mars, you were gone for like 10 years. Burned out. I had been working since the 70s. I had to stop, and that was a good time to stop. And while I did a couple of Master of Horror things for television and a small independent movie, The Ward, and that brings us up to today. And today I'm happily playing video games and enjoying myself. The Ward stars Amber Heard in one of her early roles. She's still a kid. She plays a teen, I think. She's trapped in a madhouse. It's pretty good, but honestly, it's one of the weakest of his films, regrettably. The Ward features, in my opinion, The Ward featured yet another one of your characters trapped, this time in more ways than one. She was trapped in her mind as well as physically. Is that something that scares you, being trapped? Because so many of your movies deal with that theme. Well, I was trapped in a way when I was really young. A number of factors trapped me, so I gravitated towards them as a director. I like movies where people are trapped, so I made them. You're referring to your youth in Kentucky. That's correct. It's complicated, and I don't want to get into all of it. My family and I were from northern New York, and my dad got a job in southern Kentucky. We were fish out of water there. This was the Jim Crow South, and we weren't like that. I grew up in a log cabin on the university grounds. I was just very different from the other kids, and there were some other things that I don't want to get into. Let's leave it at that. Are you working on any projects now? Sure, there are projects everywhere, but I'm not the same guy I was at the beginning of my career or mid-career. It's different now. I'm an old guy. With all these visual trends like quick cuts, is it hard for you to hold on to your style? Fuck no! I can't do anything else. What am I going to do? Be somebody else? I can't. If that means they're not rushing to hire me, that's fine. I can only be who I am. Words to live by. You ever hear of Popeye the Sailor, the cartoon character? Well, his saying is what we all should keep in mind. I am what I am, and that's all that I am. What's going on in the chat? Papa One says, I hate hospitals, so please get better soon, Serena. Being in a hospital sucks, at least in the USA. I think it sucks everywhere, Papa One. Hop up. Get up here. Get up here. Say hello to the chat. Oh, let's see. Gwyneth says, there was another car horror movie called The Car, I think in the late 70s. The car just went around running everyone over. Yeah, haunted cars. There's also like Steven Spielberg's first movie, Duel. That was kind of about a haunted highway car truck. David says, my mother, the car. Mama One says, hey, Sadie. Serena says, I know, Papa One. Been hospitalized over a week now. I just want to go home. Yeah, Serena, we want you to go home. You know, I started, David, Serena, I started watching a new series that I kind of like. It's called Van Helsing. Have you heard of that? It was on Sci-Fi. I think from the 2010s. And there's, it's basically The Walking Dead, but with vampires. What's that about? So they're, you know, and the vampires are kind of like the vampires from 30 Days a Night, and it kind of really reminds me of 30 Days a Night. So vampires exist in this world, and there's a volcanic explosion in Yellowstone that like blankets the whole world in ash. So like, you know, the sun is covered, so that it's life permanently in shadow. So the vampires can come out and multiply, and they take over the world, and it's a vampire apocalypse. And then there's a descendant of Van Helsing who has like special blood that can turn vampires back into humans if they bite her or if she bites them. And she also has like fighting skills because, you know, TV shows always need fighting. And so I'm only like 3 or 4 episodes in, but I'm enjoying it, and I think you would as well. David and Chrissy and Serena. I mean, you're talking about The Walking Dead earlier. Chrissy says, kind of like Maximum Overdrive. Yes, I remember that. Chrissy says, we just started The Walking Dead. Serena says, the nurses here are all awesome. I'm getting spoiled so far. Okay, well, you just take it easy, Serena. You mean the world to us, and I'm very happy to have you in chat. Papa One says, Serena, just try to rest and enjoy. If you have a roommate and they are nice, have conversations. It is always nice to have a good roommate and share stories. Just don't get kicked out like I did, LOL. Yeah, Papa One is a hellraiser. What's that about? Mama One, what did you have for dinner? What's for dinner? Serena says Christine was my favorite movie. I don't know how I don't know how to reverse that. Serena, Christine said that you're her favorite movie. What's that about? David, what's for dinner? I had steak and eggs. Well, half a steak. I gave this one the other half. She was very happy. Glenna says, I was in the hospital a few years ago. The nurses were nice, but I don't like being still, and they were happy when I left. And Serena says, LOL, Papa One, I have my own room. Yeah, I have such a tremendous respect for nurses as a profession. After, you know, seeing how they treated my mother and father. My mother, well, actually, both of them were in ICU. Both that, especially ICU, just ICU nurses. So much just compassion and caring, you know, matched with a technical expertise. It's like doctors can't give that human touch. They're just in and out. They've got a time schedule, everything. They're always in a rush. They got to move on to the next patient. They got to solve the next problem. But, the nurses are there, to care and to, not just, for the patient, for the family members as well. It's, yeah, I have tremendous respect for nurses. Jesus had chicken wings. Papa One says, I got kicked out in 2005. They put me in a room next to a helicopter landing. I can't be in that because of my PTSD. But they got so mad they strapped me down. And you definitely can't do that. I broke the cuffs. Wow, Papa One. Glennis says, we had Japanese. I love Japanese. And David, I missed your first half. It was something with gravy. White gravy with ground beef and green beans over mashed taters. Oh, wow, that sounds delicious. And Mama One says, we had chicken pot pie. I love chicken pot pie. A salad, cornbread, and homemade fudge. And Serena says, I had cheese sandwich, ice cream, and a cup of ice. Well, that's pretty good for hospital food, Serena. But I can't wait for you to get home and have your cheese toasties. And then get back to the business of fighting giant spiders and riding your kangaroo up and down the wasteland while listening to AC/DC and Men at Work. And that, my friends, is about all I have for you tonight. I'm very happy that all my mods are here. I missed all of you. I can't do this without you. I really can't. I mean, yeah, I can and I will, but I don't want to. It scared me, all of you being out at once. Chrissy says, poop on a shingle, hold the shingle. Shout out to the mods, Chrissy, David, Papa One, Mama One, Serena, and O-Dog, and Miko. Serena, did you notice Miko's a mod now? What's that about? Channel member Glynis Coleman says, have a good one. You have a good one. We shall return tomorrow night. We're going to do something witchy for Sinister Sundays. On Sundays, we sinister. Everyone enjoy. Yeah, let's see. Sadie, hop, hop. Say goodbye to everyone. On Sundays, we sinister. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great night, friends.